Peyton Manning had a bit of a monkey on his back, I feel like, before
he had
winning
the number
that.
18.
Well, before right. Well, no, the monkey was
Over the top of
obscured
the
the
18.
18. Right, yeah, a little bit, figuratively at least. I think that some of us, myself included, obviously said, Peyton, if he wants to be in that conversation for best of all time, you got to have a couple of rings. The ring count does matter a little bit. It's not the only thing, but it does matter.
No, it matters a lot.
Right. Well, I agree. That's a conversation for another time. Steve Young was also considered to have a monkey on his back because after taking over for Joe Montana, something that remains controversial to this day in San Francisco, he had that figurative monkey on his back, and when he vanquished the San Diego Chargers with, 6 touchdown passes, or was it 7? 6.
I believe it was 6.
In that game, it was 6.
I think it was 6. Anyway, Gary Plummer famously did this. This always has resonated for me.
Someone take the monkey off my back, please.
Oh, it was that gorilla.
It's gone forever.
And that begs the question now, who has the monkey on his back and who needs to get rid of it the most? Going into 2016, let's put our little list here together. And, of course, a reminder, they only give out one Lombardi trophy a year, so most of the people we name here will remain lost in the wilderness of,
That's right.
with a bunch of monkeys chasing
and
them around.
reminder, they also hand out multiple monkeys.
Yeah, they do.
Every year. There's
That's right.
monkeys everywhere.
They're only, yeah.
One Super Bowl.
Big barrel of monkeys get dumped all over you if you don't win the Lombardi, or maybe it's a lower standard for some of the people that we might come up with here. I'm going to start with you, Hellie. Who needs to get the monkey off his back?
Well, there's a couple of obvious ones here. I'll start with Andy Dalton. Never won a playoff game, didn't have that opportunity last year. So now the Cincinnati Bengals have 2 quarterbacks who have never won a playoff game in A.J. McCarron and Andy Dalton. The next one probably isn't going to be on the top of a lot of people's lists, but I think Aaron Rodgers, to a certain extent now,
That's a good one.
has a monkey on his back after the way he performed last year, which was still well above the league average, but far below what we're used to seeing with Aaron Rodgers without Jordy Nelson on the field. He was a different quarterback.
I'm going to put a little line of distinction here. I think there are 2 separate lists, and they're fairly close cousins here. Aaron Rodgers, absolutely. Going into 2016, if he reaches the end of the season and doesn't achieve something, and for him the standard is a Lombardi trophy, I think. I mean, not for every single guy that we'll name, but I think certain guys need to do something special, elevate their game, elevate individually or the team, or else there are going to be some changes. There's going to be a stink. The narrative that people don't like talking about, but the narrative on Aaron Rodgers is really going to start gaining some momentum. Like, wow, this guy, for all his things, he's getting a little older now, and he only has that 1 ring, and what's going, that question will, and the Mike McCarthy part of it, and all of that is going to really come into the white hot light if they don't make a deep play.
Well, and for 3 years, we were calling Aaron Rodgers the best all-around quarterback in football. That narrative has been altered after last season.
No excuses with Jordy Nelson returning, Ace Felter, Eddie Lacy. By the way, I thought of that. I heard somebody talking about his weight loss yesterday, and I thought, shouldn't he now, on the back of his jersey, it should be
X.
Eddie Lacy. See,
P90X.
Lacy. Get it?
Yeah,
L-E-S-S?
Yeah, okay.
I get it.
Keep it moving.
Not
I
great.
thought that was nice. Handsome, you have a name you'd like to float here. Who's got the monkey?
Well,
We should have monkey sound effects while we're doing this, too.
Okay, my guy actually may not be a monkey, it may be a gorilla just because of the size and breadth of his back. But I think J.J. Watt risks potentially going down in history as maybe the greatest defender of all time, but really not making a whole lot of impact on the postseason.
That's an interesting thought.
So I'm going to put it there. I know we're still early on in the Watt years, but there will come a time where he may have a decision to make, at the end of a contract somewhere, a fair way down the line. If the Texans don't make much progress into the playoffs, and who knows with Brock Osweiler if that's going to be happening.
It's just so different with a position player than a quarterback.
Right.
The win total isn't attached.
I know, but then when when he could conceivably 5-10 years from now we could be talking about, is this the best defensive player of all time, or potentially in that sort of conversation for the best player of all time? And without some kind of a pretty deep playoff run or a Super Bowl, it's hard to make that.
Well, it's funny. Well, first of all, back to Hellie's point. Andy Dalton, I'm going to install at number 1. In a tie, though, with his head coach Marvin Lewis. We've talked about him ad nauseum here, and I get the pushback that I get from people who say, "Well, look at what the Bengals were before Marv arrived." Nevertheless, he has had that job for a very long time, and they have a stacked roster, that he largely composed. He had a big hand in putting that thing together, but still 0-7 in the postseason. What is this? He's going into his 14th year, is that right, as the head coach, and he never won a playoff game. Those two need to get off the schneid. They hold the number 1 spot just ahead of, at number 2, 36-year-old Tony Romo. Fair or not?
100% fair.
Yeah.
You think it's fair
that's
for him
fair.
to – I mean, I know he's not going to have a defense again this year, or the pieces don't look to be there for them to have a dominant defense, but – Zeke Elliott now behind that offensive line, Dez Bryant back healthy, Jason Witten long in the tooth himself. This is win now, and if they don't win now, I wouldn't be surprised if they have to. There was talk before the draft that Jerry was looking to replace him, or at least to find his,
Successor.
his successor.
Well, I think that if you can just have an average defense in Dallas and they can return to what they did a couple of years ago with DeMarco Murray and chew up the clock and use Dez Bryant and use Witten to move the chains, and you have Zeke there. By the way, you got 2 other pretty solid running backs as well. That's the most loaded backfield in the National Football League.
Yep.
There's no reason that this team shouldn't advance to the postseason and win a playoff game or 2. And if they don't, then who does that fall on? The one-loss record's always attached to the quarterback.
In that division with Philly, D.C., and the Giants are going to be players. I think they're going to be very good this year. But I think the Dallas, as we get closer and closer, the more excited people are going to get about what that offense might end up being. They're going to be the favorite going in. And so the monkey on Romo's back, it remains there, even though last year is more or less a throwaway.
It's definitely on his back, but in some sense it's on Jerry Jones's back as well at this point, because he hasn't addressed yet is that backup quarterback spot. And we, again, at age 36, we know that he's probably going to need someone to be a solid backup for Romo, because otherwise it doesn't really matter who, everything else, because you can't just turn it over to a Dak Prescott.
Well, you say Jerry. I mean, Jerry can pay to have that monkey taken off his back. I think it's more so on Jason Garrett. Mm-hmm. Like at some point, Jason Garrett has to win because mediocrity has reigned in Dallas for a long, long time, and he's going to have to win.
Yep. They've got a lot of a big stay of execution, sort of, from the Dez Bryant, was that a catch or not, in Lambeau. I mean, everybody has completely rewritten that whole thing. All that would have done was tie the game against Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers would have gotten the ball. There's a chance they wouldn't have won that game, but everybody's declared, well, they would have been in the Super Bowl if they would have made the right call there. That's a little bit optimistic for my. So Romo is second on this list. At number 3, I'm going Carson Palmer here. I mean, he's older now. That team is another one. People thought that they might be able to handle the Panthers. Instead, he got humiliated. I think the monkey coming into the season is massive, how he responds, and they start at home against the Patriots. Eek.
That's a great number 3.
Yeah, that's
because Carson Palmer needed to check himself after that game because he wet the bed. It was terrible. And the thing was, when you go back and look at his resume, that was the most important game he had ever played in.
Yep.
So despite all that he has achieved, he has not been on that stage in a long, long time. And I don't know if his nerves, I don't know what it was, but we saw that he was not the Carson Palmer that we're used to seeing him.
I love that he has announced since then that, hey, that's just one of those things that you gotta wash off and move on. No, I don't have to. You do, Carson. Let's see if you can do it. On a team that a lot of people are going to pick to make a Super Bowl run once again, Palmer is a big X factor there, and if he fails at all, I don't even know what the Cardinals do at backup. I thought they might go Cardell Jones. That was a lot of the buzz, that they might take a look at him. At number 4, massive year for this guy. A lot of people surprised he still has his gig. Jeff Fisher, handsome.
Yep, that's a good one. But I mean
he's gone if they don't win, right?
For him, is the monkey getting to double-digit wins, because that's so rare with him. Like that.
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
Exactly.
With the Rams. Yeah.
Exactly.
At number 5, Matt Stafford. No Calvin Johnson, no security blanket, a chance to break out and be his own man. But
Well, where's the expectation level for
there are
Matthew
plenty.
Stafford?
There are plenty of mediocre quarterbacks who retired without going to a Super Bowl.
He's
Matt
not-
Stafford's going to be one of those guys.
He's the first overall pick with
Doesn't-
a
yeah, well,
rifle. He's getting paid a lot of loot. He's got time for him to show up already.
But I don't think the expectation is there from anyone.
I got one for you. Well, certainly the expectation level in Atlanta is higher than it is in
Aha.
Detroit.
Look at who I have at number 6 there, Matt Ryan.
Oh, we're so good.
I just think that Dan Quinn buys them one more year, and then I think at the end of this year for Dan Quinn, people better say like, all right, already 2. When are you going to do something here?
Yeah.
You've only had your entire career with 2 of the best receivers in the league. I know Roddy White no longer that, but still. And then to round it out, I put Cam down because I think he's going to have his detractors. People say, "Oh, you remember what happened to him in the big game," which is wildly overstated in my book, but. The entire season is just going to serve as prelude to seeing him in the postseason again for the haters out there.
I mean, I think he should be higher. Not because not based on the fact that he played badly in the Super Bowl, because I don't really believe that it was him, but just because he's a guy, he's at the level, he's at the MVP level. The expectations for him are much higher than they are for Matt Stafford.
Well, he's now the bar is now set
Right.
for Cam Newton,
Right.
and it's set really high. I don't know that he can duplicate what he did last year, even though he's going to be getting Kelvin Benjamin back. So, yeah, you could certainly make that argument that he's 3 or 4 on the list.
Last one, monkey on the back, an entire team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, or as handsome people say, Jaguars.
Correctly.
Jaguars. The Jags, 6 of their – I mean, I know they stink, and there are other teams that have stunk, like the Raiders for a long stretch, and the Browns are a punchline, and so on. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are a special kind of atrocious in the 21st century. In 6 of the last seasons, they've had the 3rd or 4th worst record, or they finished 3rd or 4th in the crummy AFC South 6 out of 7 seasons, and in that other season they went 500. They have not – they only touched 8 wins once out of 7 years. I mean, that stinks. They better do something as stacked as they are with all the pieces they've added.
They do have a lot of great pieces. They are young, really young on the defensive side of the ball. I just love that they gave that coaching staff another year. I mean, it's all or nothing in Jacksonville right now.
That's right.
You have to get – I think you have to make the playoffs.
I think
they have to get 9 wins. I don't know what's the Mendoza.
That's what's interesting.
They have to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Gus Bradley specifically, like you say. Hellie, you got to run, go do your fancy TV stuff. Let me list off for you because I put together a little. I scratched them out in highlighter, as our viewers can see here.
Whoa.
Here are the guys who think they're going to be regarded much worse if they don't do something better than they've already done to this point in their career. At number 1, Andrew Luck. I mean, that train's already leaving the station now. Like, hey, when's this guy going to do something already? When's he going to, this thing like, just redshirt him. Hey, the AFC South got a lot redshirt the entire year for Indianapolis in 2015. Luck was hurt, and it's just everybody forgives the whole season. Well, now the South is going to be tough, and I mean, all 4 of those teams could win the division. Andrew Luck better do something special, or else people are really like, all right, his career's half over. What's he done?
We had a chat on the show yesterday. Pick any quarterback to build your team around right now. 3 guys, none of them picked Andrew Luck.
Yeah. I mean, and that conversation's moved on a lot from a year ago.
Oh,
where
completely changed.
Probably 3 guys would have all picked him. I mean,
all right. I mean, I
everyone
think
picked him as the MVP last year.
They've built up that offensive line. They have the receivers and so on. Time to do it, Lucky. Next up, real quick, I go with Ndamukong Suh and Ryan Tannehill. They better both do something too, or there are going to be changes there in Miami. Gus Bradley, like we mentioned. How about Rex and Rob teaming up in Buffalo? That seems like a cute story now, but if that thing doesn't yield at minimum 9 wins, you got
to have more than 9 wins. With that defense coming in the way that he talked last year, you got to have more than 9 wins.
Enough with the show, all right. It's cute. I think it's charming, you 2 heavy-set kids of Buddy. But, all right, how about it equals something more than fun press
It's going to equal some
conferences?
great cutaways during games.
Yeah.
Cutler, forever on this list. In fact, we could call it the Jay Cutler Award. He's going to basically make it his whole career and be very, very wealthy and have achieved very little. Sean Payton and Drew Brees are on the list. That ends. That era ends if they don't do something.
I don't think so. I think he just signed a new 6-year contract.
I know, but it's
Sean
ridiculous.
Payton did.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous what's happening there. That team's been
Yeah.
sort of quietly very bad the last couple of years, and Drew Brees is old now. Brock Osweiler, all that loot, all the pieces they brought in through the draft and free agency, he better do it. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. How about Russell Wilson in the Legion of Boom? No more Marshawn Lynch. It's
I think they've got a couple more years before they
Do they?
make that list.
Well, Thomas Rawls
Yep.
was a nice addition last year. Yeah, I think so.
right, but they better do. Russell Wilson is the man on that offense. He better do something.
Yeah,
Jimmy
but
Graham,
I think
all that stuff.
it's close enough to.
I don't think he has
back-to-back
to win a Super Bowl, yeah.
appearances.
Not win a Super Bowl, but they better make a deep run though. They really this
Right, you're
Seattle.
holding people to quite a
Watch out!
level.
I didn't say a Super Bowl for them, but they better do that. That
But
is
they're,
sort of a-
they're they're a
Well,
year removed
Tannehill
from
and Sue
back-to-back
better-
Super Bowl.
Tannehill and Sue don't
Right.
need to win the
Yeah.
Super Bowl, but they better make a run
Do
at the
something.
division.
do something. Right.
Make a run at the division. You got the Bills. You have the They're not going to make a run at the division.
All right, then goodbye, Ryan Tannehill. It's been a long time already for you,
Possibly,
man.
yeah.
And in Dominic Sue,
Certainly.
if our team is structured with you taking that big a hit at defensive tackle, then that's not a good formula, and we should move on from that too.
Don't disagree with
I
me
see
on that.
Sue on his way out before I see Tannehill on his way.
They
It's
will
enough.
draft. They will draft competition. Tannehill hasn't had any competition the whole
If he
time
has a
he's been
good
here. It's
season,
gifted.
though, all will be forgiven. He has
Yes.
good receivers now with Parker. I think
and
there's
with Gase.
By the way, Tannehill has gotten better every single year before this past
Right.
season.
That's true.
and lastly, Teddy Bridgewater.
This is a great one, okay, because the guy made the Pro Bowl over my man Kirk Cousins with
Everybody made the
with
Pro Bowl.
14 touchdown passes. He averaged 182 passing yards a game. This is a passing league now. I know you have AD in the backfield, but Teddy Bridgewater has to make that next step. 'Cause this is a really good football team.
They're loaded.
They have Moritz Boehringer right now.
That's right with the umlaut.
Mo
By the way,
Boehringer.
let's not ever rank people on whether they made a Pro Bowl or not. Again.
No,
That's right. That's
not
standard.
something.
is
That's
gone.
standard.
I'm a
standard
little.
is-
I didn't
I
quite
know,
understand why he was selected and not Kirk Cousins. It bothered me.
because he was available. I mean, that's.
Do you think
literally
Kirk
what
Cousins wasn't available?
He was probably like, I've got some TV stuff.
He was very available. I know
Really?
that for a
Okay.
fact. Yeah.
All right.